Good morning, everybody. Happy Tuesday. Welcome into Denver Sports Coffee Break presented by Superbook Sports. DMAC, hello. Good morning.
Oh my God. We need coffee today, Rachel.
I'm so glad you feel that way. Okay, I feel like I got to the finish line. Like it was last night was the finish line because obviously the Avs aren't going to be playing tonight, and now my body is like, whew. Okay, take a breather, relax. Like it was really hard getting up this morning.
Yeah, now it's actually a huge break
Yeah,
because there's no more Avalanche.
I know.
There's a 3-day break between game 2 and 3.
Yep.
And game 3, when we pick up with the Nuggets Suns, is on Friday. So this weekend, we should be going to Phoenix. But, it's nothing at Ball Arena. So I wonder, and unless there's something else going on at Ball Arena that I'm not aware about, this might be the most quiet Ball Arena has been for weeks and weeks and weeks.
Have you heard if Avs are gonna do like a season wrap up press conference type thing?
Not heard that. I don't, that would
No.
seem appropriate, but I have not heard that. No, I don't know.
Okay, and I see the people in the comments too. I promise we're gonna get into it. They want to know, is Landy retiring? We're gonna get into it in a little bit, but first we gotta talk about the Nuggets win last night because, Clint's usually in here. He always holds me accountable, and I tweeted last night that it was a bad win, and I want to retract that statement because I think I was a little sleep deprived and I couldn't come up with any other words for bad. But it was just an ugly win last night. It wasn't a bad win. I don't think you can have a bad win, but it was an ugly win. It wasn't pretty by any means. But they get the job done and they beat the Suns by 10 points. But holy smokes, did they? They did not even get close to the over for sure.
Oh God, no. Out the window, unfortunately, early on. Not if you were taking Jokić. If you had a good vibe with Jokić, you'd probably be okay. But ugly, I think, is it's the right word to say. I mean, I think sometimes in the playoffs, you will get these high intensity defensive games.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's just not the same vibe as the regular season.
Yeah.
So you say ugly, which, they were trailing 73-70 after 3. They only allowed, though, Rachel, they only allowed 14 points in the fourth quarter. They've had 7 playoff games. They have outscored their opponents, the Wolves and the Suns, in the fourth quarter 7 straight times.
Mm.
Rachel, their 2 max contract players out of 3, Michael Porter Jr. and Jamal Murray, combined for 15 points in the game, and they still won.
Yeah.
I don't know how to point out how remarkable this is. And of course, Jokić was just dazzling with 39 points, 16 rebounds. I think he had 4 or 5 assists. I mean, he was just absolutely incredible, which is ironic that he would have such a stellar game. And today at 5 o'clock, they announced the MVP. It should go to Jokić. It may not. We'll find out at 5 o'clock our time if he's the MVP3. He said if it was a nice day, he'd be in a swimming pool when the announcement came in. And he did say this gesture, if you saw that gesture, that wasn't about a ring or something like that. It was a song that he and his daughter sing together. Yep. And, FYI, for those without kids, before kids really start talking, it's, encouraged that you teach them sign language as a way to get them speaking. So listening to music and doing signs, that's all a part of, kids can actually communicate before they can talk. They can actually use signs. So it wasn't him bragging to his daughter about winning a ring. It was communicating with his daughter. You ready to get a little tear? About a little song they sing together using sign language.
I know. And we're going to play the video here in just a second too. But you mentioned even kids. I'm a dog mom. I'm like, love my dog to death, but they even tell you that when you're going through training of like use signs to help your dog understand, and then they connect the sign to the word and then they learn the word and yada yada. It's the exact same thing and it makes a ton of sense. I wish I would have learned sign language though. Like I think it would be so cool to be able to like use different signs and stuff. That's one thing. Granted, I wish I was bilingual too, and I'm not. But that's one thing I wish looking back now I would have taken like a little bit more serious.
Rachel, life is not over, Rachel. Take a class. I mean,
oh my gosh! But in high school, I took French and I was terrible at it. that part of my brain no longer works as quickly as it should, unfortunately.
Can you count to 10 in French? En français.
Well, see, and then I always get confused with German and French because I took German in middle school.
Ah! Well, let me do français for you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Do you know German?
What's that?
Do you know German?
No, why would I know German? Listen, I've told this story before. I was interested in a girl in high school, and I kept taking French. I got to Honors French 5. What am I doing with Madame Brophy? We had to do a 10-minute presentation on a small village in France, French, en français. The girl was never going to date me, so I dropped the class. But I did learn how to count. I did learn how to count to 10 and say l'oiseau est soif. The bird is thirsty. That's about it.
Okay, interesting. On that note, we'll bring in Jake Shapiro to talk a little bit more about the Nuggets game last night. How do you say the bird is thirsty?
L'oiseau est soif. The bird is thirsty.
Okay.
Hey, I've got a question for you. What's 4 in French?
Cat.
That for the Nuggets. 4. Nuggets and 4. And
we need to figure out how you say sun in French. Somebody look that one up for us.
Sun, sommeil or something. Sommeil, losing. Like tons, sommeil, losing.
Jake's on it. You guys, let's talk. Okay. There were some major, key parts to the game. Obviously, Chris Paul leaves in the third quarter. He's got a groin injury, which, lucky for them, they've got 4 days to be able to try and hopefully rehab him for him to be able to play on Friday. How much do you think that really played into the game? Because we all know Chris Paul can get going and he can get hot. And to be honest, it kind of seemed like he was just on the peak of getting to that point yesterday, Jake.
The Nuggets outscored the Suns 46-28 after Chris Paul left that game. I don't know that the Suns were winning with Chris Paul in that game. I think the Nuggets always had that fourth quarter in them. It was just a matter of time before the dam broke. But I also don't think it would have been what it ended up at the end, which was an easy win. It ended up being a pretty relaxed win where the dagger was shot with basically 3 or 4 minutes to play.
Yeah.
So I think it would have come down to free throws. It would have come down to the absolute last couple shots. Chris Paul is the difference maker in this series, not because he's still a Hall of Fame level point guard that's operating at an all-star level, but because what the Suns have instead of Chris Paul when Chris Paul isn't out there is Josh Okogie. And with about 5 minutes left in the game, Josh Okogie on a short roll into the mid-range at the elbow, got the ball, and was terrified of what to do. He didn't know what to do. And I don't know if you picked up on this, guys, but it's the genius of Nikola Jokić. So the Suns ran the same play 2 plays in a row with about 4 minutes left in the game. And it was Josh Okogie on a pick and roll with DeAndre Ayton on the dunker spot, the block. Aaron Gordon was tasked with basically rotating up from DeAndre Ayton to cover Okogie at the free throw line, and then Bruce Brown was supposed to trail in behind and maybe get a late contest on DeAndre Ayton at the spot. Nikola Jokić, after it didn't work out the first time, told Aaron Gordon, he said, hey, stay down on the block if they run that same play. I don't think Okogie's going to hit that floater from about 9 feet out. Next play, Aaron Gordon does that exactly. Okogie doesn't know what to do, throws the ball back outside. Durant has to shoot this ridiculous shot, and that was the game. So it was the genius of Nikola Jokić. It was Chris Paul not being out there. It was Aaron Gordon listening to his teammate and just being the ultimate Jokić guy of all time. We love Aaron Gordon. And, Michael Malone willing to adjust, and the Nuggets fighting through the fact that their second and third best players had only 15 points. It was really impressive.
Let me give you some numbers, too. Do you know how many points the Suns bench scored? 4. Gosh, that's 4. 4. Yep. And I saw this because I was rewatching the coverage on TNT afterwards. The Suns bench in the playoffs has been outscored 222-100. I mean, they are virtually useless in these playoffs. So you ask, well, what impact does Chris Paul have? Massive, because they have no depth already.
Yeah.
The Nuggets played 2 max contract players of the Nuggets couldn't throw the ball in the ocean from the beach. And the Nuggets still won because it was KCP's turn to step up.
Mm-hmm.
It was 4 for 4 from 3, 4 for 4. And he was so good. And listen, I know a lot of people are looking into Michael Porter Jr. sitting on the bench, not playing very much, but that's okay. There's a flow of the game that makes sense. And last night, the flow of the game was for KCP, Kenny Pope, and Bruce Brown to both be in. It would have been insane to take those 2 out because they were playing well together. Now, just a couple games ago, KCP sat on the bench while Bruce Brown played for his minutes. And Michael Malone post-game, you can go back and watch the Denver Nuggets video, praised KCP for being, a leader and being, man enough to just sort of accept, well, it was not his time either. You don't have an issue here. If anybody is going to create an issue, you're making something up. This team, including Michael Porter Jr., right now is not bothered by these moments. It wasn't his night. He was 2 for 7. Jamal was 0 for 9 from 3. He couldn't believe it. In the post-game press conference, he saw the stat sheet and was like, oh my, he couldn't believe how bad he actually was. Chris Paul can't be missing for the Suns for them to have, they have no depth. They don't have anybody behind them. The Nuggets amazingly can afford 2 guys to have an off night and still win an ugly game because they can play tough defense and they've got the Crayola box crew that is sturdy enough mixing in with the ones. So you can get away with it if the Nuggets, not only can you get away with it, you can thrive if you're the Nuggets in situations like that. And the Suns are crippled.
Can I just give you something really impressive, Rachel? I'm gonna give it to you right here.
Absolutely.
So Chris Paul's the 3rd leading assist getter in NBA history. Kevin Durant's the 4th leading scorer by points per game in league history. Devin Booker is the 8th leading scorer in points per game in NBA postseason history. That team scored 87 points last night.
Crazy.
They're having an easier time, guys, with the Suns than they did the Wolves.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the Wolves as a much tougher matchup because defending 2 giants like Gobert and Cat was just a bigger challenge, period. And Anthony Edwards, aside from, would you rather have Anthony Edwards or Devin Booker?
Booker.
That's
Booker.
tricky.
Booker.
Listen, it's at least in the conversation, okay? No, well, I think it's in the conversation.
Oh, well, first of all, Jake, answer why it's not, because he was indeed giving the Nuggets a harder time than Booker. I mean, I agree with you. I think I would rather have Booker just because we know the longevity of what he's been able to do, but I'm curious why you're absolutely saying no.
I'm the biggest Kevin Durant stan there is. Like, I just am. Devin Booker is their best player right now. You could read Kellen's story from Arizona Sports, our guy who was on yesterday.
Fantastic.
He did an amazing job of talking about how the Suns have tried to surround Devin Booker time and time again with these Hall of Fame level players, Chris Paul, Kevin Durant, and it just hasn't worked out. But it's not been Devin's fault because he just keeps ticking. I mean, last night, I'm looking at it right now, Booker was 35 points. He's played 300 minutes in the playoffs. He shot 50%. He's doing it on the defensive end. He's playmaking. He's their entire team. He is like to what Jokić is to the Nuggets, Booker is to the Suns. He everything revolves around Devin Booker, and he does that at such an efficient level. He's scoring 30 points per game this year. Anthony Edwards might get there one day, but ultimately, Booker has the jump shot. Edwards doesn't. Booker doesn't have the downhill driving ability as Edwards, but Booker's defense is far and away better than Edwards.
All right, but that being said, in this playoff run, it's a similar sort of challenge. You know,
Booker's an easier guard for the Nuggets because he's a little bit slower than Edwards and also not as physical as Edwards, which gives him the chance to get guarded by KCP, who, by the way, was probably the 3rd best Nugget last night.
The Suns need another big that can actually do something, and they need, Bruce Brown, the ultimate utility player. And but they're not going anywhere, guys. This series is toast. And I'm not saying that the Suns can't win a game, I mean, it can happen. You know, you can have a mental sort of lapse or get a little tired with your success. I mean, that's how the Nuggets lost game 4 in Minnesota. That's it. That's why I laughed so much, and we wrote about it at denversports.com with the Wolves fans chanting Wolves in 7. First of all, teams that are down 3-0 are 0-149 in playoff NBA history. You just don't win. So to hear that sort of chant, you know, and then to have their Minnesota Wild eliminated too, you know, get ready for Vikings football there, Minnesota. But this thing is done. I mean, this thing is done. If the Suns were ever going to win a game against the Nuggets, it was last night. And they couldn't do it. Again, it wouldn't surprise me if they pull one out in front of their home crowd. I mean, that does tend to happen in the NBA. But I'm not worried about this series whatsoever. The Nuggets are going to the Western Conference Final. And, you know, you're going to face the Lakers or the Golden State Warriors. I hope it's the Lakers. I really hope it's the Lakers.
Oh, I don't know about that one, Diva. I'm terrified for either one because obviously the Lakers are doing a fantastic job. But again, the experience of Steph Curry and Klay Thompson and Draymond Green, you just can't.
I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. I hate that matchup. I'll take the Lakers all day.
Oh gosh, though I don't know. I see Jake's just shaking his head.
The Warriors. The Warriors are a way worse team. It's not even close. The Lakers actually have a rotation figured out. You know, they obviously, the Warriors have a better player at this point. You can make the case that Steph Curry is the second best player in basketball behind Nikola Jokić pretty realistically. But I don't want to jump ahead to that. I've been looking ahead all season, but I've been looking ahead to this Nuggets-Suns series. And this Nuggets-Suns series is just awesome because of all the stuff that's gone into it for a couple of years now. I'll give D-Mac the stat. In 2-2-1-1-1 formats, which is what we're playing here, best of 7, you know, switching home courts at the end. Teams that go up 2-0 are 225-22 all time. One of those comebacks was earlier actually happened this weekend. The Warriors coming back from down 2-0 against the Kings. The Suns actually are responsible for 2 of those in the last 3 years, losing to the Dallas Mavericks last year, went up 2-0, and also losing to the Milwaukee Bucks in 4 straight games after taking a 2-0 lead. So you're saying, okay, well, the Suns have been on the other end of this. They might have some experience. It's not the same Suns team. It's a completely different Suns team. So it's not even like with the Nuggets and 4 stuff or Suns and 4 stuff where it's like affected these guys to their core. The only guys still there from the last 2 years are CP3, Devin Booker, and DeAndre Ayton. Durant's a completely different player. By the way, Durant's played in 31 playoff series of all time. He's only been swept once, but that happened last year. Durant's a different level player right now than he was, you know, before the Achilles injury, and he's still amazing. He just doesn't have it to go for an entire 40 minutes. He gets tired. You can see him getting worn out. He settles for these mid-range jumpers, which, by the way, oh my God, Bruce Brown and Aaron Gordon defending Kevin Durant. I have never seen Kevin Durant defended that well. It was phenomenal last night. Like, Kevin Durant just doesn't go, what is this, 10 for 27? That's unbelievable defense. So, amazingly impressive game from the Nuggets, and it's left Suns bloggers writing this phrase, and I read this on a couple vlogs last night. Well, you assume the Suns role players and bench will play better at home because they, you know, role players normally play better at home. And all I could think in the back of my head is I had a little D-Mac on my shoulder going, that's just hoping for hope. You just positive vibes. There's no data to support this. It's just, oh, maybe this will happen because I want it to happen.
Yeah, you know, that's hope is the strategy any given Sunday. You know, that sort of concept. But in football, you do get any given Sunday because quirky things can happen on one particular game. That is not the truth in a series. In a series, you get the better team. You know, it's weird because I don't think the Kraken are a better team than the Avalanche, and that wins 7 games. But in general, in a 7-game series, you know, the better team wins, period. And then you do get into numbers, and you have to look at why anything happens. And so if it's the world of why anything happens, you just cannot account, if you're the Suns, for Nikola Jokić. And again, Jamal Murray was 0 for 9 from 3. The game before, he was 6 of 10, and you still won? I mean, can you imagine? Imagine if Devin Booker only went for 9 points? It's incomprehensible. If Devin Booker goes for 9 points, they lose by 30. And that's what happened to the Nuggets last night, and they won by 10.
And
it's remarkable.
The Jamal Murray thing is interesting too, because Jamal, usually when he has a good game, he's asked to speak to the media, and he was not asked last night, but he decided that he wanted to come to the podium. And gentlemen, I think both of you would agree, Jamal was in a better mood last night than he typically is when he has a good night, joking around, laughing with KCP. It was like he took the accountability and he said, you know what, I'm not going to allow it to make a story until there be questions about me come Friday night. So I'm just going to address it, getting up there and be able to laugh at myself.
Well, first of all, when they do a 2-man podium, it's always more lighthearted.
So fun.
All kind of clowning on each other and having fun because of that setup. So that just inherently happens. But to your bigger point, it surprised me that Jamal wanted to talk, and I think that's a good thing. He did have to sort of get up there and be accountable for not having a great game. What was funny is he didn't realize how bad of a game he had. He really did not realize. This is not a joke, guys. He did not realize he had not hit a 3-point. He was 0 for 9. Yep. There's no way he was acting there. So I love that because it does go to show his mentality. He's not afraid. He really honestly doesn't live in a poor game down the stretch. He actually did make a couple of really important buckets in the fourth quarter. They weren't threes, but they were really important buckets. Mm-hmm. And it was like, well, there's Jamal. It's the fourth quarter. Of course, now he's going to make a shot. I mean, somebody's always making a shot for these Nuggets in the fourth quarter. The way they've played and defended in the fourth quarter is really becoming legendary in terms of defining who this team is. To beat the Nuggets, you're going to have to beat them in the fourth quarter. And I don't know if there's many teams that are going to be able to figure that out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Nuggets have won 6 of the 7 fourth quarters they've played in the postseason. 1 was a tie. So they haven't lost a fourth quarter yet. To your point, D-Mac, Jamal was phenomenal in the fourth quarter despite just an atrocious game, to be honest. And it is that 2-man game with Jamal Murray. Like, what we've learned about the Nuggets in the last couple weeks here is that Jamal Murray doesn't have to be good for the Nuggets to win. Jamal Murray just needs to play. And him just being out there in that combination of force with Nikola Jokić, who accounted for 47% of the Nuggets made field goals last night, the most in Nuggets franchise playoff history by a single player. It's that combination of those two that we know and have known about for years that make the Nuggets so deadly. Some nights it's going to be Jokić. Some nights it's going to be Jamal. Now, did I think the Nuggets could win when it was going to be so wildly only Jokić or Jamal? No. But the fact that they can pull it off shows you where they're at. It also, by the way, when you look around the league and we're talking about this Chris Paul injury and we're talking about Jamal coming up to the podium a couple of nights after Dillon Brooks, who is about to get cut by the Memphis Grizzlies and talked all that talk and then didn't realize he couldn't back it up and didn't want to show up on the podium. The Grizzlies, who were the second best team in the West, are in disarray. The Suns are without Chris Paul. They have no answers. The 6th and 7th best teams in the West have advanced to the other side of the bracket, the Warriors and the Lakers. The MVP winner is currently going to miss most of the playoffs, it looks like, with a knee injury, and yet his team still won because the team they're playing against in Boston is just kind of lousy. The Knicks and Heat have both upset teams, and neither of them are very good. Like, you want to talk about absolutely everything breaking the way of the Denver Nuggets around the NBA. It has all year. It continues to break all the way around the Denver Nuggets, and I'm just going to say it flat out. If this continues and the Nuggets remain healthy, the Nuggets are winning a title. Like, everything has broken the Nuggets' way. It's absolutely unbelievable. I've been tracking this all year, like down to Brandon Clark getting injured against the Nuggets for Memphis. Like, the small injuries have even broken the Nuggets' way. And meanwhile, they've just kept chugging along, building chemistry, working on, the things that make them great. And when they have a night like last night where things aren't going well, where they can't hit their threes, where they couldn't get a rebound in the first half, they still find a way to beat the team who's supposed to be the best in the West. It's so impressive. Michael Malone deserves so much credit for so many things that will get overlooked for so many different reasons because so many people have so many different opinions about him. But it's just, I mean, honestly, guys, like even down to Jeff Green, like Christian Brown's the only rookie playing in the playoffs. Every button has been pushed perfectly with this team. It's absolutely unbelievable. Michael Porter Jr. doesn't have a turnover in the playoffs yet. Like we're watching something that's just we're the LA Symphony the other day had such a legendary performance. We're watching something that's just so finely tuned.
Mm-hmm. It feels a lot like the Colorado Avalanche did last year for sure. Jake, I do appreciate you hanging out with us for a little bit, but we do have to talk about the MVP tonight, D-Mac. And Jokić doesn't care. He truthfully does not care. And every single time he gets asked a question about it, he just kind of goes, okay, whatever. It is what it is. No interest. And I kind of actually struggle with it because I'm like, I understand the point of the championship. The team comes first. But at the same time, maybe because I'm not an MVP award-winning basketball player by any means, but you just think there would be the slightest bit of you that cares. And so I generally believe that he does not care one bit. And just of me personally, I'm like, I can't imagine just being like, yeah, I hope I'm swimming tomorrow during the MVP at all. And that idea is just hard for my mind to comprehend a little bit.
Yeah, I think he cares a little bit. I think it was a distraction with the Kendrick Perkins stuff earlier in the year.
So
which then, that was a weird conversation too, because it trickled into race. And I don't know. I'm not sure why Kendrick Perkins even went there. I don't think it's got anything to do with anything.
No.
And it just sort of soured the whole sort of funness of the debate about the MVP. It just got annoying. So I think that Jokić and the Nuggets were happy to put all of that to the side. But I mean, it is over. It's based on the regular season, and they'll award it today. I don't think he'll be all that disappointed, but he did say he knows where his trophies are. It's not like, he has no idea where they are. And don't forget, too, the MVP doesn't mean something just to the individual. It means something to the entire organization, the team, and the fan base. So I think Jokić is genuine because it's not that big of a deal. I don't think he'll be devastated if he doesn't win it.
Mm-hmm.
But what everybody seems to be afraid of is putting him in the same class as Larry Bird, Wilt Chamberlain, and Bill Russell.
Yeah.
And here's the scary truth. He does deserve to be in that class. He is like one of those three amazing players.
Yep.
He is not a great player. He is a legendary player. It just so happens we're watching it right now in real time in his prime.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a little bit hard to sort of accept that. You feel like the player should be older or more accomplished or something like that. He's just done everything, Rachel, at such an accelerated rate that it's difficult to really comprehend. And he's doing it in a way that just doesn't look the same, because he's a little bit slower and he's not jumping through the roof. But you are seeing him diagnose and play the game of basketball unlike anybody ever has as that point center, which is so highly unusual, who's the best passer, best big man passer of all time. And the way he looks at basketball, seriously, Rachel, I think he is, in terms of his mind, one of the top 5 basketball players of all time.
Easily. And the way he makes this team better too. I mean, Jake just talked about essentially, what he told AG to do to be able to stop. His name is blanking in my head right now, but the story Jake just told, and he makes the team better. And I think that's kind of the more impressive thing too, is he's just fantastic, but he's not a selfish player by any means. And a lot of the times you see selfish players win the MVP, and we can get into the whole stat padding, yada, 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 but he's not. And even last night in the press conference, they were like, we know Nikola would rather pass the ball than shoot it himself. Like, you just don't hear those conversations, I feel like, around the MVP discussion very often.
Yeah, I mean, what does the game take? What does the game give you? It really was what we did predict on Coffee Break. They're going to a little bit more on Jamal Murray and leave Jokić alone. And when they did it, Jokić took 30 shots and he went for 39 points.
Yep.
DeAndre is a very talented player, but Jokić just ate him for dinner.
Yep.
And that is one of the better defenders in the league. I mean, Jokić has done it against Gobert. Jokić has done it against Embiid. Jokić has done it against everybody.
Everyone.
And done it against Anthony Davis, too, of the Lakers. And in terms of, well, Looney wasn't around because he was hurt. Now he's back with the Warriors. So I don't know. Listen, I agree with Jake. I'm not afraid of any team for the Lakers. Nobody, or the Nuggets. Nobody sets up to beat the Nuggets. Not that well. And we're not really seeing. We saw the Sixers beat the Celtics without Joel Embiid.
Yep.
I mean, how exactly are the Nuggets winning any games without Nikola Jokić? I mean, I don't know how they do that. I doubt they could, and I know they don't want to. So if Jokić gets snubbed, I think it's going to sting a little bit. I don't think that's the worst thing in the world because, you can put that chip on your shoulder, and you can see how that motivates teams.
No, for sure. All right. Well, we talked a little bit about Nikola and his daughter and the signs and how everybody thought she was pointing to the ring finger, and it was adorable. So we will play the video. So go ahead, Jake, roll this video because it does just make your heart so happy.
The entire team, but they were led by Jokić. I mean, his calming influence, the physicality, his ability to just control the paint was
The smile that man has on his face is just so darn cute. I love it so much. But my question to you now, DMAC, is, I know it's so cute. Do you have any family inside jokes that you ever, would talk about in public or have anything of that sort of nature? Because I feel like it's so fun. Mine was always, my dad would call me Bacon when I played soccer because of Mia Hamm. And so I was always Bacon. And people would be like, why is your dad calling you Bacon? They just did not comprehend it at all. And that nickname stuck around for a really, really long time. So I'm curious about your own.
Oh, yeah. In the McKee family, we figure out all sorts of ways to talk about people behind their backs in front of their faces. So, I'm joking.
Oh my God, I thought you were being so serious. And I was like, wait, I need to hear this.
No. That's a good little question. I guess we really don't, I suppose. That's a good one. You got a little nickname. That's cool. No, I guess we don't. I mean, we have things that are just unique to our family that we're a kooky family on some things, Rachel. So we're not a very traditional family. So we're not survivalists living in the woods or anything like that. We're not that kooky, but we differ from the norm on a lot of things. So it's more of maybe our traditions are a little bit different than anything else, but nothing in particular. I will tell you this though. Our older son, Connor, who's brilliant and has a great job, college graduate, living in Denver, very independent.
Has a friend that really likes cowboy hats and wears
Has a friend, Cole was wearing a cowboy hat for some reason at the Avalanche game. Way to go, Cole. Not sure what that was all about. But he was a little bit slow to develop in speaking when he was young. And we got a speech therapist to come to our house to sort of help us getting, words to come out of his mouth when he was, a little child. He just wasn't developing the right way. And sure enough, the thing that they taught us to help him speak quicker was to use sign language. So there's a connection that kids who can't speak can actually sign before they speak. And it helps them bridge that gap when they're really, really young. So when we were watching that last night and somebody was talking about look at a ring, I was like, no, that's sign language. And sure enough, that's exactly what it was. It was sign language to go along with the song. So you make gestures. So I'm sure this relates to something that you can see or visualize in some sort of song that gets you to speak. And it is interesting for Jokić and his wife, who are from Serbia, but they're bringing up their daughter in America. Do you teach your kid Serbian first, or do you teach your kid English first? I'm sure their daughter will learn both. Yeah. But it is kind of interesting. How do you do that? As parents, how do you actually what's the thought process there? So I think it's a fascinating thing. They love Serbia. Okay, there's zero doubt. Once Jokić is done playing basketball, back to Sombor, back to the horse stable. Won't waste a second living in the United States. That's just how much he loves Serbia. Mm-hmm. So my guess, it's a guess, is that some sort of Serbian children's song that has hand gestures that go along with it. And I think that's pretty cool. So I don't know, maybe his daughter never learns English. I don't know. How long is Jokić going to be around here, Rachel? I mean, where are we going?
I don't know. That video just like makes my heart so happy. Like the biggest smile on his face. And Jokić doesn't show a lot of emotion, but you can just tell in every single game, after every game, he points up into the crowd and he points to his family, and it's so sweet and it warms my heart. And
let me give you another great story. So at the end, and you've seen it, at the end of every Nuggets game, there's a hallway that goes into the Nuggets locker room. Mm-hmm. Well, what they do, and I don't know where these kids come from, but every game, there's about 20 little kids. I mean, they're probably like 3 to 6 years old. And they hand them little noisemakers and shakers, and they line up on like this, kind of a rope, mm-hmm. and they give high fives to the players right before they go to the locker room.
Yep.
And there just so happens to be a bathroom right there. So my little habit is I always have to go to because these press conferences can get long. So listen, I'm not trying to get in the way of the little kids, but it's the only bathroom that you can sort of get to before the press conferences. So every game I kind of see it because I ask, excuse me, pardon me, little kid, as I go to the bathroom. Well, last night I'm doing that little dance, and Jokić is right behind me. And the warmth in which he greets children is just so amazing. So here's this guy who just had this huge game. He could be exhausted, whatever. And these kids with these little toy makers, and they're tiny, tiny little kids. And he's so big. And he spends time, just a little bit of time, but with a big smile, and greets the kids and pats them on the head or gives them 5 or, gives them a little hug. And Rachel, I've seen him do this game after game after game. I don't think he's obligated to do it. I think he likes doing it. Mm-hmm. I think he loves his family. I think he loves kids. I think there's a kid inside of him, which I think makes that's why I think he just basically hates talking to the press, because he's dealing with all these adults. And the adults, the muggles, are just such a drag in his life to have to deal with. I think he loves his teammates. He loves his family. He loves kids. He's a big kid himself. He's a lot of fun. He's a fascinating guy to cover. I hope he does win the MVP tonight, because I think he does deserve to be in that unique category. And I get it. It doesn't mean that much to him, but it would mean a lot to Nuggets fans who love and adore him for all the right reasons.
I know, and it makes me just so happy. And I love how last night's press conference was fantastic. He was so sassy. He had so much fun with it. It was great. If you have not seen it, any of the clips, DMAC posts all of them on his social channels. Go watch them, because he was hilarious last night. But DMAC, everybody in the comments.
Hey, Rachel, I caught a little heat.
Oh my God, so funny. Like, he was just on another level.
Here's what happened with me. What I was trying to get to and ask him is, does it surprise you? Is it amazing, even to you, that you find different ways to win? Yeah. And he said, and he gave a good answer to that, of course. He said, well, some nights it's Bruce Brown, even Christian Brown has a lot of energy, Jamal, AG, he went through the entire roster. So then I followed that with well, did you know early on tonight was going to be your night to have to do that? And he looks at me, do you think there's any way I would do that? Meaning hey, moron, how the hell am I supposed to know? His answer was no. But the way he did it was he put his hands down and he looked right at me. Do you think there's any way I could do that? Something like that. It was hysterical.
The best one, though, was another media muggle had
Mark Kislett. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, so funny. He corrected Jokić was trying to guess a score line for one of the plays.
Is corrected Jokić, but he did so in a very kind of teacher smarmy manner.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, buddy. Thanks a lot. And then Kiz said something that was wrong, and Jokić was like, oh, gotcha. Or something like that. I don't know. I
It
mean,
was so funny. I highly recommend going and listening to it because it was such a funny night for all of them. And of course, like I said, an ugly win, but the fact that they were all still they were in a good mood. And they're 2-0 in the series, and it's a lot of fun. I'm excited for it. We'll see Friday night. Of course, we'll have a ton more Nuggets talk. You got
really quick, this 3 days rest, you would think, oh, good for the Suns. No, much better for the Nuggets. Much better. Because we've seen now, Rachel, what they do with a couple of days off. It recharges them. They hang out together. It puts them in a better spirit.
Yeah.
If the Suns, it would help the Suns a lot more, Rachel, if this game was being played Wednesday night instead of Friday. Just get right to it. Get the Nuggets on travel, get them exhausted. It's a trip to Phoenix. It's nothing. The Nuggets won't travel till Thursday. So they'll have a couple of days to just chill out. And in terms of these elite athletes, having that time to rest and recover, that's dangerous. Look for the Nuggets to come out on fire in Game 3.
The only thing I will say is obviously Chris Paul gets more time to recover from this groin injury. So the more rest he can get, the better it will be, obviously, for the Nuggets. We talked plenty about that.
He's in big trouble with that injury, Rachel. Those are those very nagging, annoying injuries that take massive amounts of rest. When you talk about hamstrings or groin injuries or these sort of tears, muscle tears, they do not heal in just 2 or 3 days. They don't. Likely he's been dealing with it and it got aggravated. And even if he plays, he'll be bothered by it for sure. If not, just not be able to play. No, it's not enough time. I mean, I know what you're saying, but it's still not enough time for Chris Paul.
Yep. Well, of course, we keep everybody updated, denversports.com, and all the latest for anything involving that series. But the Colorado Avalanche, we should be having a game tonight, but we, however, will be at home, DMAC. And I see everybody in the comments talking about Gabriel Landeskog because Jared Bednar was on the team radio this morning saying that Landy's going to make a decision. I took him making a decision as his next treatment plan and what that's going to look like. I did not take that as him making a decision about his career at all. I do not believe Gabriel Landeskog is going to retire from the NHL, from the Colorado Avalanche. He said he was confident that one day again he would play. So I just want to put that out there because I know everybody is freaking out about Gabriel Landeskog. And I, of course, I'm on the bandwagon too of I hope we're going to see him sooner much rather than later. But DMAC, what did you take from that conversation, and was it the same as me?
Yeah, there's zero chance that that's not during the morning days for the past couple of games, Rachel. He wouldn't. No, he's going through a rehab process. His decision is how he's going to go. Maybe he needs another surgery. Maybe there's another treatment that, he's been putting off that he's now considering doing. Because if you have another surgery at this point, it means you probably will miss the beginning of the season next year too. But maybe that's a better thing for the long haul. No, I didn't take it like that whatsoever. But that being said, I'm concerned. I'm concerned that if he does go through another process that he's thinking about, and that doesn't go well, it could lead to a possible retirement, premature retirement. So I don't think that's what's happening right now. I don't think we're going to Landy's going to announce a retirement next week or something dramatic like that. I think this is just part of this rehab process. But Rachel, he's not out of the woods.
Yeah.
And to have it revealed that the injury happened in the bubble, and it's the bubble, Rachel. I mean, it's been more than a couple of years, and they couldn't get it straight. I mean, that is concerning. And that does bring up similarities to Peter Forsberg, who had massive ankle foot issues. Mm-hmm. And it did lead to him taking significant time off. But even Forsberg did come back for a couple of years with the Flyers in Nashville, and even 9 games for the Avalanche before he called it a career. Mm-hmm. He really was done, though, Rachel. Once he went away for a while and he had severity in his foot, there really was no significant coming back. He kind of dripped that. So I don't think Landeskog will retire whatsoever. But I am nervous, even if he returns, to what degree he'll be the same guy. Mm-hmm. And he may not be. And that's just the harsh reality of the world of pro sports with a significant injury.
Yep.
Maybe you can come back, I mean, he can get on skates, Rachel. We've seen it, but will he really be the same player? That's what gets in athletes' minds too. That's where they're at. Will I ever be the same? That's where doubt creeps in and can be can be a bigger setback than the injury itself. Your mind.
Oh, 100%. And I comment, or I like labeled this section of the show the after funeral discussion, because I feel like yesterday I was kind of all in my feels about, oh man, I can't believe this series has ended. I can't believe the season is over with. Now that I've had a lot of time to process and honestly read too a lot about it, it was never going to end up the same as last season for the Colorado Avalanche. And I think it was actually just better. Of course, we always want to see more hockey, but it's just better for this team to try and get healthy because the recovery times can be so long. You know, like say they would have just kept advancing somehow and you're just prolonging them not being able to get healthy. And I think that's all that matters. And next season, they can be a really, really good team again, but they all have to be healthy, D-Mac.
Yeah, and this is why they are going to try to bring back Valerie Ničuškin if at all possible.
You really think so?
Yeah, I don't think they have much of a choice. Now, I'm not saying that's a guarantee because who knows what in the world is really going on. And maybe there is no coming back from his absurd, what appears to be absurd, irresponsible behavior. Okay? Yeah. But Lekkonen's fine, McKinnon's fine, Rantanen's fine. JT Compher should be your third line center. You've got to go out and get a second line center. Period. Yeah. It can't be JT Compher, and it's not going to be Alex Newhook. That means if you don't have Ničuškin, you don't have a second line at all if you don't have Landeskog. I mean, this is ridiculous. You've got a lot of role players. You got a lot of guys on small deals that you can be brought back on your bottom six, and certainly JT Compher would be one of them. Yeah. And Logan O'Connor would be another. But other than that, I mean, what are you doing here? You know, you've got a lot of holes to fill, too many holes to fill. When they go through this process, I'll speak Canadian. When they go through this process, it'll be obvious, like a hammer to the head obvious, that if you don't have Ničuškin, who you've signed up for another 7 years at $8+ million a year, you're screwed. Like, you know.
But is it better to I mean, he was like a breakup analogy, okay? Your significant other has cheated, okay? It's cheated. There's no longer trust in that situation. Is it better to just cut it and be done and, you know, start the let's find a better team, let's build better chemistry at home, or do you stay in it because you bought a house together and you don't want to give up the money?
You bought a house. And then maybe, you know, you have to live in 2 separate bedrooms or whatever. But listen, time will heal some of these wounds. And there's going to be such large turnover. What you're likely going to have to do if we think what happened really happened, okay? Let's for a moment, we can all play this game in our heads and assume that there was some, you know, bad behavior there. What you would probably have to do with Ničuškin is you'd have to babysit him a little bit. You'd probably have to give him a roommate on the road. You'd probably have to make sure that certain things are buttoned down. You're probably going to have to make exceptions in how you treat Ničuškin different than anybody else on your team. But if you don't do that, Rachel, and you just get rid of him at the beginning of this contract, it's not going to be easy to fill. And maybe you can financially get out of it. But then, Rachel, you are looking, are you ready for this? To replace your entire second line.
I know.
You're replacing a second line center, Ničuškin, and theoretically Landeskog if he doesn't come back. So it's a lot easier. I mean, Rachel, a lot easier just to get Ničuškin, you know, settled down, calmed down, healed, and back on the team. And I get it. That's not going to go over great with a lot of his teammates that probably felt like he let them down. But maybe talk it out. Maybe there's some sort of thing that goes on. I don't know. You know, we really just don't know because we don't know the specifics of what really happened, and we don't know what he's going through now. So I'm just speculating, Rachel. My speculation is that he'll be back on the team with quite a few safeguards And I think we'll find out whatever he was going through has been dealt with. He is in a better place now, and we'll see. Now, that might be all a bunch of bunk. That might be crap. I mean, who knows? But I think they're deeply financially invested in him. And I think his quality as a player is so significant that I think they're about to make allowances for him they wouldn't for other guys.
I'm actually curious to the chat. Let us know in the comments, how would you feel about Ničuškin coming back? Are you whatever it takes to win, or are you saying cut ties and see what you can do?
Well, that's a great question, because I think the fan base theoretically would be furious that he would let them down like he did. So
it's a good question.
But the hockey fan base, they tend to rally around the recovery story. I mean, Will Smith got a standing ovation at the Oscars after he smashed Chris Rock in the face. I mean, we're a weird society here, Rachel. So strange things do happen.
And of course, at the end of the day, we just want to say that we hope whatever is going on with Ničuškin, that he's either getting help and that he's okay. And, everything aside from hockey is obviously very important. So
I want to put out to the universe, I guess, not that I can do anything about it. My biggest sympathies go towards that woman who was involved in the case, who found herself in the United States against her will, having her passport taken away by a bad man. And I have suspicions what that's rooted in. And I think that needs to be brought to light, because it's probably a dark corner of our society that we don't pay much attention to. But I feel awful, awful, awful for that woman and what she must have been going through to find herself in that particular situation. And I think it's just absolutely repulsive of any person to take advantage of that situation for their own, needs. So my concern is I'm actually not. Listen, I'll tell you this, Rach. Personally, me, D-Mac, I'm fine if they just cut ties with the guy and just say, forget it. I would like to think our teams can exist and thrive doing things the right way. So if we find out details that really indicate Ničuškin did things that, were reprehensible, see ya. I'll see you later. So when I'm saying that I think he'll be brought back, that's not saying what I would do or I would want as a fan.
Yeah.
We'll see what the truth is, and we can reserve judgment based on the facts as they lay out. But who knows if we'll ever get the truth, Rachel? Who knows if we'll ever get the truth?
Yep. And I'm seeing the comments, some people saying just win and cut ties. The trust is all depends on what he did. Albert, I do want to answer this question. It says, was Val the bad man that woman was speaking about?
No.
I do not believe that at all. I think it's somebody else who brought her over whenever she came over. So that's the hardest part.
There was somebody, and this is part of the story, okay, everybody? There was somebody that put her with Ničuškin in the first place. So who was it? And how did that happen? And what's that relationship? And is that a relationship that has been ongoing? Or was it really something that just happened one, stormy night in Seattle? I don't know. Again, you can see why there's a lot of branches to this tree. It's not just as simple as it's laid out. Now that the season's over, I do wonder if Avs fans care that much, but I think there's a deeper story, and especially about listen, we're in a very we're in a difficult time in our political climate with Russia, and I think a lot of these things are tied into what Russia is doing in this world society that we live in, which is really, 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 really bad things. Okay, Russia is a bad guy. Talk about a bad guy. That's Russia right now, okay? Let's make it very clear. This is Russia, and it's not good. And how deep these athletes that play in the NHL are connected to what's going on, Rachel, is fascinating. I think it's a complex situation, and it may not be any fault whatsoever of the Russian players who are in the NHL. But they're from a country right now that is basically evil for the things that they're doing. How else can I put it?
The whole situation. You hope we get answers though, because that the speculation of every which way, that's the part that's just annoying me. So I hope there is. We haven't heard anything if there's going to be like a season wrap-up presser. If there is, of course we'll bring you guys all the information. But Russell Wilson's he's trending a little bit on Twitter because of a video that was posted of him, and it makes me literally cringe so much. I hate it more than anything. We'll go ahead and play it right now. Oh, gross.
Killer right here. Bro, he's a savage. Look at him go. Bro, show us one shoulder press. Give me just one. It's just too easy for him. I'm struggling with this snake. Tom just picks up an anaconda, the world's biggest, heaviest snake. And Russ is just over here holding like it's a noodle. Piece of spaghetti.
Ugh. Snakes, 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 and snakes. I hate snakes more than anything in the entire world. And the fact that he had that just dangling on his shoulders, I literally have chills just thinking about it because, ugh, D-Mac. Ugh.
Yeah, it's not a poisonous snake. It's not going to do
it. It could still constrict around your body and kill you.
Really? I mean, that thing's not going to do anything. It's just like a big fatty. So it's going to lump around. You know, if you were scared by something, I'd look at like a cobra or a rattlesnake or something along those lines. I mean, those things are scary because they can bite you and they can hurt you. That thing is just that's a snake slug. It's a big snake slug. I tell you the video that freaks me out, not that one, is that video, I think in India, where they think there's something in the ceiling.
Oh my God.
And like 3 gargantuan snakes fall out of the ceiling. That would creep me out. If I thought there was something up in the ceiling just slithering around up there, oh my God. That would freak me out.
The videos where they cut open the snake and it shows like what it ate. Oh my God. I hate snakes. I don't care. Spiders, totally fine. Mice, whatever. Snakes, disgusting. I was sitting on my front porch last summer and I just like sat down, and I never do this either. Like I was just sitting there and I was like, I'll just sunbathe here for like 10 seconds. And I look over and there was just a gardener snake sitting next to me, and I literally screamed. That's how much I hate snakes. Even the littlest of snakes. Ugh.
Rachel. I mean, we gotta, but wait a second. You're a big camper, outdoor person. Like, you get outside all the time. You're not afraid of the outside.
No, I'm not. I just hate snakes. I hate snakes. The fact that they have no limbs and the big ones can kill you by squeezing you, it just freaks me out.
Well, you know our own Chad Brown is deep.
I know.
You know what his relationship is, right?
Yes, and he's talked to me about some of them. I'm like, I cannot have this conversation with you.
Well, happy birthday to Russell's daughter.
Yeah.
Russ has been very active on social media as of late, so he's back. You know, he was off there for a while, but you know, he's back. You know, so he just wants us to know what's going on. So.
The best part though is him lifting that snake, and that snake's got to be pretty heavy above his head there.
Yeah, well, that's awesome. So so you're telling me he's a football player who's strong. Great.
Got them guns.
Gold star for Russ being a strong football player. That's awesome.
He does look good.
Listen, I tell you, man, there's no more excuses for Russell Wilson, Rachel. The draft's over. They're adding guys, through trades. Who knows if they're going to deal one of the receivers? They got a lot of them now, that's for sure. There's no more excuses.
Nope.
The team is set up very well to succeed. You never know who's going to get hurt, but you're going to have theoretically your best version of your offensive line that you've had for years. Mm-hmm. You'll have Bowles coming back. You'll have Powers at one guard, Cush at the center, Miners, and then McGlinchey. I mean, that is the strongest offensive line they've had in forever. Mm-hmm. So here we go, Rach. Here we go. And eventually Slim Shawnee will pop out of his hole so we can all watch and talk to the Broncos at some point. It's May now, so they're forced to at some point. So that'll be happening as well. You know, it's an interesting couple days, Rachel, because we have no Nuggets, no Broncos, no Avs for the next 3 days. We don't nothing. It's like the first time we've had this kind of break. Thank God the Rockies are playing the Brewers.
Woo! Go Rockies! All right, everybody. On that note, though, we'll of course be back tomorrow, and I promise we will find something indeed to continue to talk about right here on Coffee Break. Don't worry, everybody. Though, hope you have a wonderful Tuesday, and we'll be back 10:30 tomorrow morning for another episode. And see you guys then. Enjoy the Lakers Warriors game tonight, though. I'm looking forward to it. See everybody later. Peace.